Victoria Chase grabbed the nearest laptop and hurled it across the boardroom. It shattered against the glass wall, raining circuits across Italian marble. $12 billion, she said, her voice terrifyingly calm. Gone in 37 minutes if one of you overpaid idiots doesn't fix this. 15 engineers stood paralyzed. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. A maintenance worker in a faded uniform stepped forward from the corner. I can fix it. Victoria spun toward him. Her laugh was ice-breaking. You, a janitor. She walked toward him until they stood inches apart. Fine. Fix my server before 2 p.m. and I'll kiss you right here, in front of everyone. The man didn't blink. I don't want your kiss, Ms. Chase. My daughter needs me at her school by 6. I'll fix your server because it's broken. That's all. He walked out without looking back. Victoria's smile vanished. In 35 years, no one had ever walked away from her. What she didn't know, this maintenance worker once commanded elite military cyber units. What he didn't know, this CEO hadn't felt anything real since finding her mother's body 17 years ago. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. The lights died at 11:47 a.m. Victoria was mid-sentence when darkness swallowed the room. Emergency generators kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in blood-red light. What the hell happened? Victoria's voice sliced through the chaos. Patterson, her CTO, fumbled with his tablet. Main servers, they're down. Everything's down. Define everything. The demonstration system, investor portal, live feeds, everything for the launch. Victoria didn't move. 500 people were gathering downstairs right now. Journalists from 43 countries. Investors with $60 billion in their pockets. 3 senators. A Defense Department delegation. And the servers were dead. How long? Victoria asked. Patterson looked at his engineering team. 15 MIT and Stanford graduates. They huddled around tablets, faces pale. 8 hours minimum to diagnose, 4 more to repair. The launch is at 12:30. I know. 12 hours means we're finished. The investors leave. The contracts vanish. We're done. Patterson's voice cracked. I know, Victoria. She turned to the room. Get everyone. Every engineer. Every technician. Anyone who knows the difference between a server and a coffee machine. 5 minutes. Here. Now. Daniel Reed was replacing an Ethernet switch 3 floors down when his radio crackled. All technical personnel to executive conference, immediately. He checked his watch. 11:52 a.m. 6 hours until Lily's competition. This morning she'd grabbed his hand at the door. Daddy, you have to be there. Front row. Promise? I promise, baby girl. You always promise. And I always keep them, don't I? She'd hugged him tight. You're the best daddy ever. Daniel had held her close, breathing in her strawberry shampoo, wondering if he was enough. If a maintenance worker could give her what she deserved. He grabbed his tools and headed upstairs. The boardroom was chaos when Daniel arrived. Engineers screamed at each other. Executives barked into phones. Coffee pooled across a table worth more than his yearly salary. Daniel found a spot against the back wall, watched, listened. The problem was obvious. Anyone with real field experience could see it in the error patterns on the main screen. But these people didn't have field experience. They had degrees, theories, 6-figure salaries. What they didn't have was 20 years of fixing systems where failure meant people died. 8 years in Army Cyber Command, designing secure networks in Afghanistan while mortars fell. Building systems that never got breached. Not once. Major Daniel Reed, commander of elite technical units. Then Emily left. 3 words on a post-it. I can't anymore. She walked out when Lily was 8 months old. No explanation. No goodbye. Daniel faced a choice. Keep his career. Deploy for 18 months. Leave Lily with relatives who barely knew her. Or give up everything and be her father. It wasn't really a choice. He'd resigned, cashed out retirement early, taken whatever jobs let him be home for her. His world shrank from commanding hundreds to answering supervisors who couldn't tell malware from a screensaver. But every night when Lily smiled at him with Emily's green eyes, he knew. Worth it. Every sacrifice. Worth it. That's when Victoria threw the laptop. Glass exploded. Circuits scattered like shrapnel. $12 billion, she said, voice deadly calm. Gone in 37 minutes, and you're all standing here like idiots. Patterson stepped forward carefully. Victoria, we're working on what excuses? She kicked a chair. It crashed into the wall. I built this company from nothing, 14 years, and you're going to destroy it because you can't fix a server. Nobody answered. Victoria paced like a caged predator. Her heels cracked against marble like gunshots. Anyone at all have a solution that isn't wait 12 hours while our future burns? Silence. Pathetic. Every single one of you. Pathetic. She grabbed another laptop, raised it over her head. I can fix it. Victoria froze. Every head turned toward the back wall. A maintenance worker in a faded blue uniform stepped forward. What did you say? Victoria lowered the laptop slowly. I said I can fix it. The server. Patterson laughed nervously. Victoria, this is ridiculous. He's maintenance. He doesn't... Shut up. Victoria walked toward Daniel. Her heels clicked. Each step deliberate. Dangerous. She stopped 2 feet away, close enough that Daniel could smell her perfume, something cold and expensive. You think you can fix what my entire engineering team cannot? Yes. And what makes you qualified exactly? Experience. Preston, a young Stanford engineer, stepped forward, smirking. Experience? You're a janitor. You clean toilets and change light bulbs. What could you possibly know about enterprise server architecture? Daniel didn't look at him. He kept his eyes on Victoria. I know that your engineers are looking for a hardware failure. It's not hardware. It's a cascading authentication error in your primary cluster. The system isn't broken. It's locked. The room went quiet. Patterson cleared his throat. That's impossible. We checked authentication protocols 3 times. You checked primary protocols. The failure's in the legacy handshake system. It's a known vulnerability in this server architecture. I've seen it before. Seen it where? Victoria's eyes narrowed. At your previous janitorial job, Afghanistan. The word hung in the air. Victoria studied his face, looking for arrogance, for bluffing, for desperation. She found none of it, just calm certainty. How long? She asked. 90 minutes, maybe less. Preston snorted. This is insane. You're actually considering letting a maintenance worker... I said shut up. Victoria didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Preston went pale and stepped back. Victoria circled Daniel slowly, like a shark evaluating prey. Let me make this interesting, she said. You claim you can do what 15 engineers with degrees from MIT and Stanford cannot. Fine. She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could see the ice in her blue eyes. Fix that server before 2 p.m., she said loud enough for everyone to hear, and I'll kiss you, right here, in front of everyone. Gasps rippled through the room. Victoria smiled, cold, predatory. But when you fail, and you will fail, you're fired. No severance, no reference. Security will escort you out. Do we have a deal? Daniel looked at her for a long moment. I don't want your kiss, Ms. Chase. The words hit like a slap. Excuse me. My daughter has a coding competition tonight. She needs me there by 6. I'll fix your server because it's broken and I know how to fix it. That's the only deal I need. He turned and walked toward the door. Wait. Victoria's voice cracked like a whip. Did you just walk away from me? Daniel stopped, turned. Is there something else you need, Ms. Chase? Nobody walks away from me. I'm not nobody, Ms. Chase. I'm a father who promised his daughter I'd be in the front row tonight. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a server to fix." He walked out. The silence was absolute. Victoria stood frozen. Her hands trembled slightly. With rage, or something else she couldn't tell. "Patterson," she said finally. "Who the hell is that man?" Patterson made calls while Victoria stared at the closed door. Nobody had ever dismissed her like that. Not investors, not rivals, not the 3 men she'd almost married. A maintenance worker, in a faded uniform, walking away from her like she was nothing. When was the last time anyone had looked at her as just another person? When was the last time anyone hadn't wanted something from her? Patterson returned tablet in hand. "Daniel Reed, contract maintenance, started 3 months ago." He paused. "Before that, Major Daniel Reed, U.S. Army Cyber Command, 8 years, Chief Technical Officer for the 54th Signal Battalion." Victoria's head snapped toward him. "Military, decorated, Bronze Star, Silver Star, multiple commendations. He designed secure networks for forward operating bases in Afghanistan and Iraq. His systems were never breached. Never, not once, in 8 years. Then why the hell is he working maintenance for minimum wage?" Patterson scrolled through the file. "Resigned his commission 4 years ago. Reason listed personal circumstances." What does that mean? Military code. Usually means family emergency. Victoria looked at the security monitor. Daniel was already in the server room, stripping off his outer shirt, pulling tools from a worn leather kit. "Get him whatever he needs," she said quietly. "Full access. No questions." "Victoria, you can't seriously." "Now, Patterson." Preston cornered Patterson in the hallway. "You're not actually letting this happen, are you?" Patterson sighed. Victoria gave orders. "She's lost her mind. That guy is going to destroy our servers and blame it on us." "What do you want me to do?" Preston leaned closer. "Let me monitor him. If he screws up even once we pull the plug, tell Victoria he was sabotaging the system." Patterson hesitated. "Think about it," Preston pressed. "If this janitor actually fixes the servers, we all look like idiots. Our careers are over. But if we catch him making mistakes, we're the heroes who stopped a saboteur." Preston smiled. "Exactly." Patterson looked toward the server room, then nodded slowly. "Keep it quiet and keep it legal. I don't need a lawsuit. Trust me." Preston's smile widened. This guy won't know what hit him. The server room was 96 degrees. Daniel stripped to his t-shirt and got to work. His hands moved with muscle memory. 20 years of training. Thousands of hours in conditions far worse than this. The problem was uglier than he'd expected. The authentication cascade had triggered secondary failures throughout the system. Error code scrolled across screens that the manual didn't recognize. But Daniel had seen worse. He'd once rebuilt a compromised network using parts from 3 different systems, while enemy hackers launched real-time attacks. He'd written security patches in the field that Microsoft later incorporated officially. This was just a server, just a puzzle. He started working, stripping cables, creating bypass routes, building temporary bridges that existed in no manual but worked in the real world. In his mind, he wasn't in a corporate building. He was back in Afghanistan. Summer 2018. 120 degrees. Restoring communications to a medical facility full of wounded civilians while the power grid collapsed around him. Except this time the stakes were smaller, more personal. Lily. 4 months she'd worked on her app, BuddyBot, a simple program that helped lonely kids find friends at school. Sometimes kids are sad because nobody talks to them, Daddy. BuddyBot helps them find people who like the same stuff. That's really smart, baby girl. I know, she'd grinned. I'm going to be a programmer like you were. I was a major, not just a programmer. Yeah, but you fix computers. That's the cool part. Tonight was her first demonstration. Parents, teachers, other kids watching. Front row, Daddy, so I can see you when I'm scared. Daniel checked his watch. 12:47 p.m. 73 minutes to finish. Then 5 hours to get across town. He could do this. He had to. Victoria watched through security cameras. She told herself it was oversight, quality control. But that wasn't why she watched. She watched because of how he moved. Every motion purposeful, nothing wasted. She watched because he didn't look up, didn't seek an audience, didn't perform for the cameras. She watched because he worked like someone who'd learned that wasted effort could be fatal. "He's bypassing the corrupted authentication entirely," Patterson said beside her, "building clean handshakes from the backup infrastructure." Is that possible? It shouldn't be. But he's not doing it by the book. He's doing it by instinct. Victoria kept watching. Sweat soaked through Daniel's shirt. His hands never stopped moving. His face showed nothing but concentration. She thought about her father, Marcus Chase, billionaire, the man who'd built an empire and destroyed a family. Marcus had never attended a school event, never came to a recital or a game, too busy building his kingdom to notice his wife drowning. Victoria had sworn she'd be different. But here she was, alone at the top. No children, no real relationships, no one waiting for her anywhere. A maintenance worker had turned down her kiss because his daughter needed him in the front row. Something cracked in Victoria's chest. Something frozen for 17 years. At 1:31 p.m., Preston made his move. He slipped into the server room's secondary access point, found the auxiliary power controls. If he cut power for just 3 seconds, it would look like Daniel's modifications caused a surge. The cascade would restart. Daniel would be blamed. Preston's finger hovered over the switch. "I wouldn't do that." Preston spun around. Daniel stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes hard. "How did you—" "Saw you on the internal cameras. Amateur hour, kid." Preston's face reddened. "You don't know what you're talking about. I know you're about to commit corporate sabotage that'll cost you your career and probably your freedom." Daniel stepped closer. "I also know you're scared." "Scared of what?" "Of being shown up by a janitor. Of realizing that all those degrees don't mean much when things actually break." Daniel's voice softened slightly. "I get it. I've been there. You don't know anything about me. I know you're 26, Stanford, top of your class, probably never failed at anything in your life." Daniel paused. "And I know that if you touch that switch, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you tried to do." Preston's hand trembled. "Walk away," Daniel said quietly. "Go back to the boardroom. Tell them I'm making progress. Be part of the solution instead of the problem." "Why would you help me after what I was about to do?" "Because I have a daughter, and I hope that if she ever makes a stupid mistake, someone gives her a second chance too." Preston stared at him for a long moment. Then his shoulders sagged. "I'm sorry. I couldn't stand the thought of—" "I know." Daniel nodded toward the door. "Go on. I've got work to do." Preston left. Daniel checked his watch. 1:34 p.m. 26 minutes lost. He went back to work. Faster now. At 1:52 p.m., Daniel made the final connection. Silence. The servers sat dead. Dark. Nothing. Daniel placed his hand on the main housing. Felt for vibration. For life. Come on. Come on. Nothing. He closed his eyes. Ran through every connection in his mind. Every bypass. Every bridge. There. One junction he'd missed. A single pathway still carrying corrupted data. He dove back in. Found the cable. Rerouted it through clean infrastructure. 1:56 p.m. The servers hummed. Low at first. Then growing. Building. Lights flickered throughout the building. Screens blinked awake. The demonstration system surged online. In the boardroom, someone screamed, "It's working! Everything's working!" Patterson grabbed his phone. "The auditorium's online. Investor portal's active. We're back." The engineering team erupted. High fives. hugs. Someone actually cried. But Victoria didn't celebrate. She watched the security feed. Daniel emerged from the server room, exhausted, soaked with sweat, shirt ruined. He didn't look up at the cameras, didn't pump his fist, didn't wait for congratulations. He pulled out his phone, checked the time, and headed for the exit. He was leaving. Victoria moved before she knew what she was doing. She caught him in the parking garage. "Mr. Reed." Daniel turned. He'd changed into clean clothes from a duffel bag, jeans, flannel shirt. He looked like every working-class stereotype she'd been taught to dismiss, but there was nothing dismissible about him. "Ms. Chase, you're leaving? The launch isn't over. My part is, servers fixed. Shift ended at 2. But, is there something else you need?" The question was genuine, not sarcastic, just a man asking if there was more work. "You earned it," Victoria said. "The kiss, fair and square." Daniel studied her. "That wasn't for me, Ms. Chase. That was to humiliate me in front of your engineers, to remind everyone that even their failure was worth more than my success." The accuracy made her flinch. "I've met people like you," Daniel continued. "People who think everyone exists to reflect their importance. But I don't need your validation. I don't need your kiss. I fixed your server because it was broken. That's all." He opened his truck door. "Goodbye, Ms. Chase." "Wait." The word came out before she could stop it. Daniel paused. Victoria didn't know what she wanted to say, didn't know why his dismissal hurt more than any business defeat. "You surprised me," she managed. "In my world, nobody turns down an advantage." "In my world," Daniel replied, "advantages aren't given by people like you. They're earned by showing up every day, going home to the people who actually matter." He got in the truck. Something broke loose in Victoria. 17 years of walls, decades of control. She crossed the distance between them, reached through the open window, placed her hand on his rough cheek, and kissed him. Not the theatrical promise, not a power move. Something smaller, honest. His skin was warm, real, his stubble rough against her palm. When she pulled back, his eyes were unreadable. "Thank you," she whispered, "for saving the launch." "I didn't do it for you, Ms. Chase." Daniel's voice was quiet. "I did it for Lily, my daughter. She needs to know that when things break, we fix them. We don't give up. We don't make excuses. We fix them." He started the engine. "Have a good evening, Ms. Chase." Victoria stepped back. Daniel drove away. The truck disappeared around the corner. Gone. She stood alone in the parking garage, hand still tingling from his warmth. The launch would be a triumph. The investors would sign. Her empire would grow. None of it mattered. All she could think about was a man who'd turned down everything she represented. A man who'd chosen a daughter's coding competition over billions. A man who'd looked at her like she was just another person. Victoria Chase hadn't felt anything real in 17 years. Tonight, standing alone in an empty garage, she felt something she couldn't name. And it terrified her. Across town, Daniel pulled into the school parking lot at 5:47 p.m. Lily was waiting by the entrance. The moment she saw his truck, her face lit up like sunrise. "Daddy!" She ran to him. He caught her, lifted her high. "You came. You really came." "I promised, didn't I?" "I know, but—" She buried her face in his neck. "I was scared you wouldn't make it. Baby girl, I will always make it. Always." He set her down. She grabbed his hand. "Come on, it's about to start. I saved you a seat. Front row. Front row." Daniel let his daughter drag him toward the auditorium. Behind him, the sun was setting. Ahead, Lily was bouncing with excitement. He thought briefly about Victoria Chase, about the kiss, about the look in her eyes when he drove away. Then Lily squeezed his hand. "Daddy, are you ready to see Buddy Bot?" Daniel smiled. really smiled, for the first time all day. "I'm ready, baby girl. Show me what you built." They walked into the school together. Back at Nexus Technologies, Victoria stood at her office window. The launch had been perfect. Investors committed $2 billion more than projected. The senators were effusive. Media coverage was glowing. Victory, total and complete. She felt nothing. On her desk sat Daniel Reed's personnel file. She'd read it 4 times. Bronze star, silver star, never breached, never broken, until his wife left. Until he gave up everything for his daughter. A man who fixed broken things because they deserved to work. Victoria touched the window glass, cold against her palm. Below, the city sparkled. Billions of dollars in motion. Power and influence flowing like electricity. None of it could buy what Daniel Reed had. None of it could give her what she'd seen in his eyes when he talked about Lily. Her phone buzzed, her father's name on the screen. She let it go to voicemail. Tomorrow, she would go back to being the Silicon Queen. Cold, brilliant, untouchable. But tonight, alone in her tower of glass and steel, Victoria Chase allowed herself one dangerous thought. What would it be like to be loved by a man like that? 3 weeks passed. Victoria told herself she'd forgotten about Daniel Reed. She had a company to run, deals to close, a reputation to maintain. But every time she walked past the maintenance office, she slowed down. Every time she heard a radio crackle in the hallway, she turned to look. Every time she saw a man in a blue uniform, her heart jumped before her brain caught up. It was ridiculous. She was Victoria Chase, $3 billion, Fortune 500 CEO, the Silicon Queen. And she couldn't stop thinking about a maintenance worker who'd turned down her kiss. "You're distracted," Patterson said during their Monday meeting. "You've read the same page 3 times. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You haven't been fine since the server incident." Victoria looked up sharply. "What's that supposed to mean?" Patterson hesitated. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." But she couldn't forget. That was the problem. She started finding excuses to be in different parts of the building. The east wing needed inspection. The basement electrical systems required review. The rooftop HVAC units demanded attention. All places where maintenance workers might be. She finally saw him on a Thursday afternoon. Daniel was in the lobby, kneeling beside an elevator panel. Tools spread around him, completely focused on his work. He didn't notice her watching. Victoria stood behind a pillar like a teenager stalking a crush. The absurdity wasn't lost on her. "Just talk to him," she muttered to herself. "You're a CEO. You've negotiated with world leaders. Just walk over and talk to him." She didn't move. A young maintenance worker approached Daniel. Couldn't have been more than 22. He looked nervous. "Mr. Reed, I'm having trouble with the 3rd floor junction box. The wiring doesn't match the manual." Daniel set down his tools, gave the young man his full attention. "Show me what you've got." The kid pulled out his tablet. Daniel studied it, nodding. "See here, the manual shows the standard configuration. But this building was retrofitted in 2019. They ran auxiliary power through the original conduits. So the manual's wrong. The manual's incomplete. Big difference." Daniel stood, clapped the kid on the shoulder. "Come on, I'll show you how to trace the actual layout. Once you understand the building's history, the wiring makes sense." They walked toward the stairs together. Daniel was explaining something about load balancing his hands, gesturing as he talked. The young worker was hanging on every word. Victoria watched them disappear into the stairwell. "He teaches," she thought. "He doesn't just fix things. He teaches others how to fix them." When was the last time she'd taught anyone anything? When was the last time she'd been patient with someone who didn't understand? She thought about her management style. The screaming. The thrown laptops. The terror she inspired in her employees. Daniel Reed got the same results with patience and kindness. Which approach was actually strength? The question bothered her more than she wanted to admit. The next day, Victoria made a decision that surprised even herself. She went to the maintenance break room during lunch. The room went silent when she walked in. 5 workers sat at a metal table, sandwiches frozen halfway to mouths. They stared at her like she was a bomb about to explode. Daniel was in the corner, alone, reading a technical manual while eating a homemade sandwich. He looked up. His expression showed surprise, but not fear. "Ms. Chase." "Mr. Reed." The other workers exchanged glances. One of them stood. We have work to—" They practically fled the room. Victoria and Daniel were alone. "Is this seat taken?" she asked. Daniel's eyebrows rose slightly. "It's a free country." She sat down across from him. Her designer suit looked absurd against the scratched metal table. Her handbag cost more than everything in the room combined. She felt suddenly intensely aware of the gap between their worlds. "Can I help you with something?" Daniel asked. His voice was neutral, professional. "I wanted to apologize." The words hung in the air. Daniel set down his sandwich. "Apologize for what?" "For the kiss comment. At the launch. It was demeaning. You deserve better." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Apology accepted. Silence. Victoria had never been good at small talk. Her conversations were always transactional. Negotiations, power plays, strategic exchanges. This was different. She had nothing to gain from Daniel Reed, nothing to lose, nothing to negotiate. She was just talking to him. "Your daughter," she said finally. "The coding competition. How did it go?" Something shifted in Daniel's face. The professional mask cracked slightly. "She won second place." "Second place. That's wonderful." She was disappointed, wanted first. Daniel smiled, the first real smile she'd ever seen from him. "I told her second place means you have something to work toward." Smart perspective. "That's Lily. She's smarter than me, smarter than anyone I know." The pride in his voice was unmistakable. "She's already working on improvements, wants to enter the state competition in 6 months." "She sounds remarkable." "She is." Victoria found herself wanting to know more. About Lily, about Daniel, about the life that existed outside her tower of glass and steel. "What's her project, the app?" Daniel's eyes lit up. Victoria realized with a start that she'd never seen him animated before. In her experience, he'd always been calm, controlled, reserved. But when he talked about his daughter, he came alive. "She calls it BuddyBot. It's a matching program for kids who have trouble making friends. You input your interests, and it connects you with other kids at your school who like the same things." "That's actually brilliant." She thought of it herself. Said she noticed some kids always sat alone at lunch. Wanted to help them. Victoria felt something twist in her chest. She remembered sitting alone at lunch, after her mother died, after she'd built walls so high that no one could climb them. "I was one of those kids," she heard herself say. "The ones who sat alone." Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. Not at the CEO, not at the power or the money or the reputation. At her. "What happened?" he asked quietly. "My mother died when I was 17. The words came out before she could stop them. "I found her in the bathtub. She'd taken pills." Daniel didn't flinch, didn't offer empty condolences, didn't look away in discomfort. He just listened. "She left a note," Victoria continued. 3 words. "Love is weakness." "That must have been hell." "It was." Victoria's voice cracked. "I spent the next 18 years proving she was right." "Was she?" The question was simple, direct, and it cut straight through every defense Victoria had built. "I don't know anymore," she whispered. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, and his words carved themselves into her memory. "My wife left when Lily was 8 months old. No warning, no explanation, just a note that said, "I can't anymore." For a long time I thought love was weakness too. I thought caring about someone just gave them power to destroy you. What changed? Lily. Daniel's voice softened. Every time she smiled at me, every time she reached for my hand, every time she said, "I love you, Daddy," I realized that love isn't weakness. Love is the only thing that makes us strong enough to survive the worst life throws at us. Victoria felt tears threatening. She hadn't cried in 17 years. "I should go," she said abruptly. "I have a meeting." She stood, grabbed her bag, started toward the door. "Ms. Chase?" She stopped, didn't turn around. "Victoria." Her name on his lips, like no one had ever said it before. "You're not weak," Daniel said quietly. "You're surviving. There's a difference." Victoria walked out without responding, but his words followed her. Through the afternoon meetings, through the evening negotiations, through the night in her empty penthouse. You're not weak. You're surviving. When was the last time anyone had seen the difference? Something was happening to Victoria Chase. She started noticing things she'd never noticed before. The cleaning crew that worked through the night. The security guards who knew everyone's name. The maintenance workers who kept the building running while executives took all the credit. She started saying thank you. The first time she thanked a janitor, the woman nearly had a heart attack. Literally put her hand on her chest and asked if something was wrong. "Nothing's wrong," Victoria said. "I just wanted to say thank you. For keeping the building clean?" You're welcome, ma'am." Word spread. The CEO was acting strange, saying please and thank you, asking people their names. Patterson cornered her after a board meeting. "What's going on with you?" "Nothing." "Bull. You haven't thrown anything in 3 weeks. You thanked the catering staff yesterday. By name. Is that a problem? It's terrifying. People don't know how to react." Victoria almost laughed. "Maybe they should get used to it." "Victoria, seriously, what happened?" She thought about Daniel, about their conversation, about the way he'd looked at her like she was a person instead of a position. "I met someone who reminded me that people are people," she said finally. "Not furniture, not tools, people." Patterson stared at her. "Who?" "No one you'd know." She walked away, leaving him confused and concerned. The following Friday, her assistant delivered a message. "Ms. Chase, there's a company charity gala next month. The usual format, 500 a plate black tie silent auction." "Fine. Send the standard response." "Also," the assistant hesitated, "you asked me to flag anything involving the maintenance department." Victoria looked up sharply. "And?" "There's been a request from the elementary school district. They want Nexus to sponsor their annual science fair. One of our maintenance workers has a daughter competing." Victoria's heart jumped. Which worker? Daniel Reed. Of course it was. "How much is the sponsorship?" $10,000. "Do it." "Ma'am." "Approve the sponsorship. And I want the company to provide technology support for the event. Tablets for the judges. Display screens for presentations. Whatever they need." The assistant blinked. "That's very generous." "It's good community relations. Do it." After the assistant left, Victoria sat back in her chair. She was being ridiculous, sponsoring a science fair just because Daniel Reed's daughter would be there, hoping he might see the company's name on a banner and think of her, like a teenager with a crush. But she couldn't stop herself. 2 days later, she found a note in her office mailbox. No signature, no return address. Just 2 sentences in neat handwriting. "Thank you for the science fair sponsorship. Lily is very excited." Victoria held the note for a long time. He knew. He knew she'd done it for him. She should have felt embarrassed, exposed. Instead, she felt something warm spreading through her chest. He'd noticed. He'd acknowledged it. He'd said thank you. It was the smallest gesture imaginable, It meant everything. Victoria started engineering coincidences. The East Wing electrical system needed inspection. She scheduled it for Daniel's shift. The executive floor had a mysterious HVAC problem. She requested Daniel specifically. The rooftop communications array required maintenance. During lunch, when she just happened to be there with her laptop. "You again," Daniel said when he found her on the roof pretending to work. "The signal's been intermittent. I wanted to observe the repairs." "The signal's been fine. I checked the logs." Victoria felt her face heat. "Well, better safe than sorry." Daniel shook his head. The ghost of a smile crossed his face. "You're not very good at this, are you?" "At what?" "At being subtle." Victoria wanted to deny it, to maintain some shred of dignity. Instead, she heard herself laugh. "No, I'm really not." Daniel started working on the array. Victoria watched, not even pretending anymore. "Lily asks about you," he said after a moment. "She does." "She saw the company name on the science fair materials, told her I work here. She said, 'Is that where the pretty lady works? The one who came to the elevator show?'" Victoria's breath caught. "She remembers me. She remembers everyone who's kind to her. There aren't that many." The statement was matter of fact, but it carried weight. Lily noticed kindness because kindness was rare in her world. "I'd like to meet her," Victoria said. "Properly, I mean. If you'd allow it." Daniel's hands stilled on the array. He turned to look at her. "Why?" "Because she sounds remarkable, because you clearly adore her, because—" Victoria struggled for words. "Because I want to know the things that matter to you." Daniel was quiet for a long time. "There's a pizza place near our apartment," he said finally. "Maria's. Lily and I go there every Friday night. It's not fancy. Nothing you'd probably ever choose." "I don't need fancy." "No." Daniel's eyes searched her face. "What do you need, Victoria?" She thought about the question, really thought about it. "I need something real," she said quietly. "I'm so tired of things that are fake." Daniel nodded slowly. Then he turned back to the array. "Friday, 7 o'clock, if you want to come." It wasn't exactly an invitation, but it wasn't rejection either. It was a door cracked open the smallest amount. Victoria spent the rest of the week in a state of nervous anticipation she hadn't experienced since her first board presentation. She bought new jeans. She'd never owned jeans. It took 4 stores and 3 hours to find a pair that didn't make her feel like she was wearing a costume. She practiced casual conversation in the mirror. It was mortifying. "Hi, Lily. I'm Victoria. Your dad and I work together." Too formal. "Hey, nice to meet you." Too manic. "So you're the famous Lily I've heard so much about." Too creepy. She considered canceling. Multiple times. What was she doing? She was a CEO. She didn't eat pizza in Queens with maintenance workers and their daughters. But every time she reached for her phone to send an excuse, she remembered Daniel's voice. Love is the only thing that makes us strong enough to survive. She needed to know what that felt like. Friday came. 7 o'clock. Victoria stood outside Maria's pizzeria in her new jeans and a sweater that cost more than most cars. The restaurant was small. Family-owned. Checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. The smell of baking dough and garlic filled the air. She spotted them immediately. Daniel and Lily sat at a corner booth. Lily was talking animatedly, her hands waving in the air. Daniel was listening with complete attention, nodding and laughing at whatever she was saying. They looked happy. Complete. A perfect unit of two. Victoria almost turned around and left. But Lily saw her. "Daddy, the pretty lady's here." Victoria had no choice then. She walked over, heart pounding. "Hi," she said. "I'm Victoria." Lily grinned, gap-toothed and radiant. "I know who you are. Daddy talks about you." "Lily," Daniel's voice carried a warning. "What you do. You said she's scary but also kind of nice under all the scary. Victoria laughed. She couldn't help it. Scary but kind of nice. I'll take it. Daniel slid over in the booth. Victoria sat beside him across from Lily. The space was small. Their arms almost touched. Thank you for sponsoring the science fair, Lily said, suddenly serious. That was really cool of you. You're welcome. I heard you're working on something special. BuddyBot 2.0. Lily's excitement returned instantly. It's way better than the first version. Now it can match people based on learning styles too, not just interests. Because sometimes people like the same things but learn different ways, you know. That's incredibly sophisticated. My dad helped with the algorithm. He's really smart, even though he pretends to be just a maintenance guy. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Lily, it's true. You could be doing way more important stuff if you wanted, but you stay here because of me. The statement landed like a bomb. Victoria looked at Daniel. He was staring at the table. That's not why I stay, he said quietly. Yes, it is. I heard you tell Uncle Mike. You said you could get a government job, but it would mean traveling. And you won't leave me. Ever. Lily, this isn't... I just wanted Victoria to know. Lily's voice was steady, fierce. My dad gave up everything for me. He could be a big deal somewhere. But he chose to be my dad instead. That makes him better than all the big deals combined. Silence fell over the table. Victoria looked at this 8-year-old girl who understood sacrifice better than most adults, who defended her father with the ferocity of a lion. I know, Victoria said softly. I know exactly what he gave up, and I think he made the right choice. Lily studied her. Really studied her. Do you have any kids? No. Why not? Lily, Daniel interjected. That's personal. It's okay, Victoria said. I was always too focused on work. Too scared of getting hurt. Scared of what? Of loving someone and losing them. Lily nodded sagely. My mom left when I was a baby. I don't even remember her. Sometimes I'm scared Daddy will leave too, but he never does. He always comes back. Lily, Daniel's voice was rough. He says that's what love means. Showing up, even when it's hard. Victoria felt tears threatening again. This child. This remarkable, observant, wise child. Your dad's right, she managed. That's exactly what love means. The pizza arrived. Large pepperoni, Lily's favorite. They ate and talked. About BuddyBot. About school. About the science fair, and Lily's dreams of becoming a programmer. Victoria found herself relaxing in a way she never did. No power plays. No negotiations, just conversation. At one point, Lily excused herself to go to the bathroom. Victoria and Daniel sat alone in the booth. She's extraordinary, Victoria said. She gets it from her mother. Daniel's voice was bitter. The intelligence, the intensity. Sometimes it scares me how much. And the kindness, the wisdom. Daniel was quiet for a moment. I don't know where she gets that. Not from Sarah. Sarah was ambitious, driven. She saw Lily as an obstacle to her career. Then it comes from you. I'm not kind. You are. I've watched you. With the young workers, with everyone. You have more patience and kindness than anyone I've ever met. Daniel turned to look at her. Really look at her. Why are you here, Victoria? Really? The question deserved honesty. Because you make me want to be better, she said. Because when I'm around you, I remember that power isn't the only thing that matters. Because you look at me like I'm a person instead of a position, and I can't remember the last time anyone did that. Daniel's eyes searched her face. I'm a maintenance worker. I make $30,000 a year. I drive a truck that's older than some of your interns. I have nothing to offer you." "You have everything to offer me," Victoria whispered. "Everything that actually matters." Lily returned from the bathroom. The moment broke. But something had shifted. Something had changed. When they left the restaurant, Lily grabbed Victoria's hand. "Will you come again next Friday?" Victoria looked at Daniel. He didn't say anything, but he didn't say no. "I'd like that," Victoria said. "If it's okay with your dad." Lily turned to Daniel with pleading eyes. "Daddy, please." Daniel sighed, the kind of sigh that meant surrender. "We'll see." Lily grinned. "That means yes." Victoria walked to her car, feeling lighter than she had in years. The night air was cool, stars barely visible through the city lights. "Victoria." She turned. Daniel had followed her. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For being good to her. She doesn't have many female role models. Thank you for letting me come." They stood in the parking lot, close but not touching. "This is complicated," Daniel said. "You know that." "I know. I have nothing. You have everything. People will talk. Let them. Your father." "My father can go to hell." Daniel almost smiled. "You don't mean that." "I absolutely mean that." Silence. The tension between them was palpable. "I should go," Victoria said. "Early meeting tomorrow." "Yeah." Neither of them moved. "Friday?" Victoria asked. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "Friday." She drove home with the windows down, letting the cold air wash over her face. She felt alive, terrified and alive. Something was building between them, something that defied logic and circumstance, and every rule she'd ever made for herself. For the first time in 17 years, Victoria Chase was feeling instead of calculating. It was the most dangerous thing she'd ever done, and she couldn't wait to do it again. What Victoria didn't know was that Marcus Chase had eyes everywhere. That same night, a private investigator uploaded photographs to a secure server. Victoria Chase eating pizza in Queens. Victoria Chase laughing with a maintenance worker. Victoria Chase holding hands with a child who wasn't hers. Marcus studied the images in his home office. His face was unreadable. "Find out everything about this man," he said into his phone. "Everything, and I want it yesterday." He hung up. Looked at the photograph of Victoria laughing. When was the last time he'd seen her laugh? When was the last time he'd seen her happy? Marcus poured himself a whiskey. His daughter was making a mistake, the same mistake her mother had made. Reaching for something beneath her, something that would only bring pain. He would protect her, whether she wanted protection or not. That's what fathers did. That's what love required. At least that's what Marcus Chase told himself as he planned to destroy the only man who'd made his daughter smile in 17 years. Marcus Chase arrived at Nexus Technologies on a Tuesday morning without warning. Victoria was in her office reviewing quarterly projections when her assistant's voice came through the intercom shaking. "Ms. Chase, your father is here." Victoria's blood went cold. Marcus never visited without purpose. Every appearance was calculated, strategic, designed to remind everyone who truly held the power. "Send him in." The door opened. Marcus Chase walked in like he owned the building. Because technically, he did. 62% of Nexus Technologies was held by Chase Family Holdings. Victoria was CEO, but Marcus was king. "Father?" "Victoria." He sat across from her desk without being invited. His silver hair was perfectly styled. His suit cost more than most people's annual salary. His eyes were the same ice blue as hers, eyes she'd inherited along with his ruthlessness. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Victoria asked, keeping her voice neutral. "I was in the city. Thought I'd check on my investment." "Your investment is performing exceptionally. We exceeded projected earnings by 18% last quarter." "I'm not talking about the company. Victoria's hands tensed beneath her desk. Then what are you talking about? Marcus reached into his jacket, pulled out a manila envelope, slid it across the desk. Victoria didn't touch it. Open it, Marcus said. I'd rather you just tell me what this is about. Open it. Victoria picked up the envelope. Her fingers were steady, but her heart was racing. Inside were photographs. Her and Daniel at Maria's pizzeria, laughing, talking, sitting close. Her and Lily walking to the car holding hands. Her and Daniel in the parking lot, standing too close, looking at each other in a way that couldn't be misinterpreted. Private investigators, Victoria said flatly. You're having me followed. I'm protecting you. From what? From yourself. Marcus leaned forward. That maintenance worker, Daniel Reed. I know everything about him now. Divorced, single father, makes $32,000 a year, lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, drives a truck that should have been scrapped a decade ago. None of that is relevant. All of it is relevant. Marcus's voice hardened. You are Victoria Chase. You are the CEO of a $12 billion company. You do not eat pizza in Queens with janitors. He's not a janitor. He's beneath you. Marcus stood, placed both hands on her desk, loomed over her like he'd done when she was a child. I've seen this before, Victoria. Your mother had that same look in her eyes once, before she learned what the world was really like. Victoria felt the words like a knife. Don't you dare bring Mother into this. Why not? She's relevant. She thought she could find happiness with someone who wasn't her equal. She thought love conquered all. Marcus's voice was ice. We both know how that ended. She died because you were cold and cruel and unfaithful. She died because you made her feel worthless. She died because she was weak, because she let emotion override reason. Marcus straightened. I won't let you make the same mistake. It's not your choice. Everything is my choice. Marcus walked toward the door. End it, Victoria. Whatever this thing is with the maintenance worker, end it now, or I will. You can't threaten me. Marcus turned. His smile was terrifying. I'm not threatening you, sweetheart. I'm threatening him. Daniel Reed has a daughter, 8 years old, currently enrolled at Jefferson Elementary, participates in the after-school coding program, takes the bus home alone on Wednesdays because her father works late. Victoria's blood froze. If you touch her, I would never touch a child. I'm not a monster. Marcus opened the door. But I can make Daniel Reed's life very difficult. Jobs can disappear. Apartments can become unavailable. Schools can become concerned about a single father's ability to provide stable housing. That's blackmail. That's business. Marcus stepped into the hallway. You have 1 week, Victoria. End it, or I'll end him. The door closed. Victoria sat motionless for a long time. Her hands were shaking, her heart was pounding. Her mind was racing through possibilities, contingencies, ways to fight back. But Marcus Chase had been playing power games for 40 years. He knew every move before she made it. He had resources she couldn't match and connections she couldn't counter. He would destroy Daniel. She had no doubt about that. The only question was whether she would let him. That night, Victoria drove to Queens. She didn't call ahead, didn't plan what she would say, just drove her mind a storm of fear and anger, and something else she couldn't name. Daniel's truck was in the parking lot. Lights were on in his apartment. She sat in her car for 20 minutes watching the window. What was she doing? She should walk away. Protect him by staying away. Let Marcus think he'd won. But every time she reached for the ignition, she saw Daniel's face, heard his voice. Love is the only thing that makes us strong enough to survive. She got out of the car. The apartment building had no doorman, no security, just a row of buzzers next to a door that had seen better days. She pressed 3B. Yeah. Daniel's voice tinny through the intercom. It's Victoria. Silence. Then the door buzzed open. She climbed 3 flights of stairs. Her heels echoed in the empty stairwell. Daniel was waiting in his doorway. Behind him, Victoria could hear the TV playing cartoons. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Can we talk privately?" Daniel glanced back into the apartment. "Lily, I'll be right outside. Stay put." "Okay, Daddy." He stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind him. "What happened?" Victoria couldn't look at him. "My father came to see me today." "Your father? The billionaire?" "Yes. And he knows about us, about the pizza dinners, about everything." Victoria forced herself to meet his eyes. "He had us followed. He has photographs." Daniel's face went still. "Photographs? Of us together, of me with Lily. What does he want?" "He wants me to end it, whatever this is between us." Victoria's voice cracked. "He gave me a week." "Or what?" This was the part she dreaded, the part that made her sick to her stomach. "Or he'll destroy you. He'll make sure you can't find work anywhere in the city. He'll have your apartment building condemn your unit. He'll—" She couldn't finish. "He'll what, Victoria?" He mentioned Lily's school, her schedule. He knows she takes the bus alone on Wednesdays. Daniel's entire body changed. The calm, patient man she'd come to know vanished. In his place stood someone harder, colder, dangerous. "He threatened my daughter." Not directly, he implied. "He threatened my daughter." Victoria had never heard that tone from him. It scared her. "Daniel, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I should never have—" "Stop!" Daniel held up his hand. "Just stop." He turned away from her, pressed his forehead against the wall. His hands were clenched into fists. "I knew this would happen," he said quietly. "I knew from the first moment that this was a mistake. Your world and my world don't mix. They never have. They never will. Daniel. My daughter is everything to me. Everything. I gave up my career, my future, my entire life for her. And now some billionaire is threatening to take her away because I made the mistake of letting someone in. It's not a mistake. What we have isn't a mistake." Daniel turned to face her. His eyes were wet. "Then what is it, Victoria? What are we doing? You're worth $3 billion. I fix broken things for minimum wage. Your father owns half this city. I can barely make rent. None of that matters to me. It matters to everyone else. It matters to the world we live in." Daniel's voice broke. "I can't protect Lily from your father. I can't fight him. I don't have the resources, the connections, the power. He could take everything from me with a phone call. Then let me fight him. How he controls your company. He controls your money. He controls everything. He doesn't control me." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Doesn't he? You're here, aren't you, telling me it's over? Doing exactly what he told you to do. I'm not. Then why are you here?" Daniel stepped closer. "If you're not here to end it, why did you come?" Victoria had no answer. Why had she come? To warn him, to say goodbye, to ask him to run away with her to some fantasy world where fathers didn't threaten children and money didn't determine worth. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know why I'm here. I couldn't stay away." Daniel reached out, touched her face. His calloused fingers were gentle against her cheek. "That's the problem, isn't it?" he said softly. "Neither of us can stay away, even when we know we should. What do we do?" "I don't know." They stood in the hallway, inches apart, the weight of impossible choices crushing down on them. The door opened behind Daniel. Lily stood there in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed robot. "Daddy, Victoria." Her eyes were wide. "What's wrong? Why is everyone sad?" Daniel dropped his hand from Victoria's face, knelt down to Lily's level. "Nothing's wrong, baby girl. Victoria and I were just talking." "You were crying. I saw through the peephole." Daniel glanced at Victoria. She could see him building walls in real time, protecting his daughter the only way he knew how. "Sometimes grown-ups have complicated conversations," he said carefully. "But everything's okay. I promise." "Is Victoria going away?" The question hung in the air. Victoria looked at this child who'd already lost one mother, who defended her father with the ferocity of a lion, who noticed kindness because kindness was rare. She knelt down beside Daniel. "I don't want to go away," she said honestly. "But sometimes things happen that we can't control." Like when Mommy left, Victoria felt her heart shatter. Like that. Yes. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took Victoria's hand. "My dad says that when things break, we fix them. We don't give up." Her voice was steady, fierce. "Are you giving up?" Victoria looked at Daniel. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "No," Victoria said. "I'm not giving up." "Good." Lily squeezed her hand. "Because I like you. And Daddy likes you too, even though he pretends not to." "Lily." "It's true." Lily turned to her father. "You smile more when she's around. You haven't smiled like that since ever." Daniel closed his eyes. His throat worked. "Go back inside, baby girl. I'll be there in a minute." Lily looked between them. Then she hugged Victoria fiercely, her small arms tight around Victoria's neck. "Please don't go away," she whispered. "I don't want another person to leave." Then she ran back inside, closing the door behind her. Victoria and Daniel were alone again. "She's right," Daniel said after a long silence. "I do smile more when you're around. I haven't felt this way I don't know if I've ever felt this way." "Daniel." "But I can't put her at risk. I can't let your father hurt her just because I was stupid enough to fall for someone I could never have." "Who says you can't have me?" Reality says, logic says, every single circumstance of our lives says. "Then let's change the circumstances." Daniel stared at her. "How?" Victoria didn't have an answer, not yet. But something was forming in her mind, a plan, a possibility. "Give me time," she said. "Don't walk away yet. Let me figure this out." "Figure what out?" "How to beat him. How to protect you and Lily. How to have everything instead of choosing between happiness and safety." "Victoria, your father has been playing these games for decades. You can't just, I'm his daughter. I learned from the best." Victoria's voice hardened. "He thinks I'm weak. He thinks I'll fold like my mother did. But I'm not weak, Daniel. I've survived everything he threw at me for 35 years. I can survive this too." Daniel looked at her for a long time. "You really believe you can win?" "I believe I have to try. Because the alternative is losing you. And I'm not willing to accept that." She kissed him then. In the dingy hallway of his apartment building, under flickering fluorescent lights. It wasn't romantic, it was desperate. A promise and a plea all at once. When they broke apart, Daniel's forehead rested against hers. "1 week," he said. "That's what he gave you." "Yes." "Then we have 1 week to figure out how to beat a billionaire who controls everything." "Not everything." Victoria pulled back, met his eyes. "He doesn't control us. He doesn't control what we feel, and he doesn't control what we're willing to fight for." "What are you willing to fight for?" "This. Us. Lily. Everything that matters." Daniel nodded slowly. "Okay, 1 week. But Victoria, if you can't find a way, if there's no path forward, then we'll make one." She left him standing in the hallway. Drove home in silence. Her mind was racing, calculating, strategizing. Marcus Chase had underestimated her. He saw a daughter he could control, a woman too weak to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The next morning, Victoria arrived at the office at 5 a.m. She pulled every financial record she could access. Every contract, every agreement, every piece of information about Chase Family Holdings and its relationship to Nexus Technologies. She'd been CEO for 5 years, but she'd never looked too closely at the corporate structure, never questioned her father's influence, never tried to find the cracks in his armor. That ended now. By noon, she'd found something interesting. The 62% stake Marcus held wasn't actually his personally. It was held by Chase Family Holdings, a trust established by Victoria's grandfather. And according to the trust documents, control of that stake passed to the eldest Chase heir upon their 35th birthday. Victoria had turned 35 8 months ago. Her hands trembled as she read the fine print. Marcus had never told her, had never mentioned that the trust had transferred. He'd continued acting like he owned everything, and she'd never questioned it. But legally, technically on paper, she controlled the majority stake. She controlled her own company. Victoria sat back in her chair. Her heart was pounding. This changed everything. But it wasn't enough. Even with control of the company, Marcus had other weapons, other connections. He could still hurt Daniel through 1,000 different channels that had nothing to do with Nexus Technologies. She needed more. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Everything okay?" She typed back, "Working on it. Trust me." "I do." 2 words. Simple. Direct. They meant more than any 3-word phrase ever could. Victoria spent the next 3 days digging. She hired her own private investigators, called in favors from journalists who owed her, reached out to competitors who'd tangled with Marcus Chase over the years. Everyone had stories about hostile takeovers that destroyed families, about business rivals who'd mysteriously lost everything, about regulators who'd been paid off, and lawsuits that had been buried. Marcus Chase wasn't just ruthless, he was criminal. But proving it was another matter. On the 4th day, she found what she needed. A whistleblower from one of Marcus's subsidiaries. A woman named Sandra Chen, who'd worked in accounting for 15 years. She'd discovered evidence of systematic fraud, money laundering, tax evasion. Enough to put Marcus away for decades. But Sandra had been silenced, paid off with a settlement that included a non-disclosure agreement and an implicit threat against her family. Victoria tracked her down to a small town in Vermont. "Ms. Chen, my name is Victoria Chase." Silence on the other end of the line. "I know who you are. You're his daughter." "I am. But I'm also the person he's threatening now. And I think you might be the only one who can help me stop him." Another long silence. "Why should I trust you?" "Because he destroyed something you loved. And he's trying to destroy something I love. We have a common enemy. He'll come after my family. Not if we take him down first. Not if we make sure he can't hurt anyone ever again." Sandra Chen's breath came through the phone, shaky and uncertain. "I kept copies," she said finally. "Of everything. He doesn't know. I've been waiting years for someone brave enough to use them. Send them to me. If I do this, there's no going back." "I know." Victoria's voice was steady. "I'm counting on it." That night, Victoria sat in her apartment with a flash drive worth more than all of Marcus Chase's billions. Evidence of fraud, money laundering, bribery, obstruction of justice. Enough to destroy him completely. She had one choice left to make. If she used this, her father would go to prison. The Chase family name would be ruined. Everything her grandfather had built would crumble, and she would finally be free. Her phone rang. Daniel's number. "Victoria, it's late. Are you okay?" "I found a way." "What?" "To beat him. I found a way." Silence. Then, "What kind of way?" "The nuclear option. The kind where no one walks away clean." "Victoria." "He threatened Lily Daniel. He threatened a child to control me. Whatever happens to him, he brought it on himself." "Are you sure about this?" She looked at the flash drive, thought about her mother, thought about 17 years of living under Marcus's shadow, thought about Daniel and Lily and Friday night pizza and everything she'd never known she wanted. "I'm sure," she said. "I'm finally completely sure." "Then do what you have to do. I'll be here when it's over." "Promise." "I promise. I always keep my promises, don't I?" Victoria smiled. For the first time in days, she felt something like hope. "I'll see you Friday," she said. "Front row." Front row. She hung up, picked up the flash drive. Tomorrow she would end her father's empire. Tonight she would sleep peacefully for the first time in years. Whatever came next, she was ready. Victoria scheduled the meeting for Friday morning. She chose the main boardroom at Nexus Technologies, the same room where she'd thrown a laptop against the wall, the same room where Daniel Reed had walked away from her kiss. It felt appropriate. Endings should happen where beginnings did. Marcus arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. He walked in expecting a surrender. Victoria could see it in the way he moved, the casual confidence of a man who'd already won. "I'm glad you've come to your senses," he said, settling into a chair across from her. "These infatuations pass, Victoria. You'll thank me eventually." "Will I?" "Your mother certainly would have if she'd listened to me." Marcus straightened his cuffs. "Now, I assume you've ended things with the maintenance worker?" "Actually, I invited him to dinner tonight. Lily too. We're celebrating." Marcus's face hardened. "Celebrating what?" Victoria slid a folder across the table. "Open it." "What is this?" "Open it and find out." Marcus picked up the folder with the same casual dismissal he brought to everything. He opened it. His face went white. "Where did you get this? Does it matter?" This is confidential. Protected by the NDA. You forced Sandra Chen to sign the one that's legally void because it was signed under duress." Victoria leaned back in her chair. "I've had 3 lawyers review it. The NDA collapses. The evidence stands." Marcus's hands were shaking. Actually shaking. Victoria had never seen her father lose control. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "If this gets out, you go to prison. The company gets investigated. The Chase family name becomes synonymous with fraud and corruption. You'd destroy your own family. You destroyed our family 20 years ago. I'm just finishing what you started." Marcus stood abruptly. His chair crashed backward. "I will not be threatened by my own daughter." "You're not being threatened." Victoria's voice was ice. "You're being informed. There's a difference." "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear." Marcus laughed. The sound was hollow. "Disappear? I built this empire. I created everything you have. You wouldn't exist without me." "And yet here we are." Victoria stood to face him. "Here's how this is going to work. You're going to sign over complete control of Chase Family Holdings to me. You're going to retire to whatever island you prefer. You're going to stop interfering in my life, Daniel's life, and Lily's life. Forever. And if I refuse, then I send everything in that folder to the FBI, the SEC, and every major news outlet in the country. By Monday, you'll be the most famous criminal in America." "You wouldn't." "Try me." Father and daughter stared at each other across the boardroom table. 35 years of dominance and submission, control and compliance, all coming down to this moment. "Your mother was wrong about one thing," Victoria said quietly. "Love isn't weakness. But you were wrong about everything else." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You think that maintenance worker loves you? He sees your money, your power. You're a meal ticket for him and his daughter." "Daniel doesn't want my money. He doesn't want my power. He wanted me to walk away because he thought he couldn't protect Lily from you." Victoria felt tears threatening, but refused to let them fall. "That's what love looks like, Father. Putting someone else's safety above your own happiness. You wouldn't recognize it because you've never felt it. I loved your mother. You owned my mother. There's a difference. And when she broke under the weight of your ownership, you blamed her weakness instead of your cruelty. Marcus looked like she'd slapped him. Catherine was fragile. She couldn't handle being married to a monster. Neither could I if I'd made the same mistake she did. Victoria picked up the folder. You have 24 hours to make your decision. Sign the papers or I burn everything down, including you. Victoria. We're done here. She walked past him toward the door. You'll regret this, Marcus called after her. When he leaves you, and he will leave you, you'll have nothing, no family, no support, nothing. Victoria stopped at the doorway, turned to look at her father one last time. I'll have everything that matters, she said. I'll have people who love me for who I am, not what I control. I'll have Friday night pizza and coding competitions, and a little girl who calls me by my first name. That's more than you've ever had. She left him standing alone in the boardroom. She didn't look back. The signing happened Saturday afternoon. Marcus Chase sat across from 3 lawyers and a notary public, his face a mask of controlled fury. Victoria sat beside him, watching him sign document after document. Transfer of controlling interest in Chase Family Holdings. Resignation from all board positions. Agreement to maintain a minimum distance of 500 miles from Victoria Daniel Reed and Lily Reed. Legally binding, irrevocable, complete. When it was done, Marcus stood without a word. He walked toward the door of the conference room. Father. He stopped but didn't turn around. I'm not doing this because I hate you, Victoria said quietly. I'm doing this because I finally love myself enough to stop letting you hurt me. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Your mother said something similar, he finally replied. The night before she died. She said she was finally going to be free. Victoria felt the words like a physical blow. The difference, she managed, is that I'm choosing to live. Marcus walked out without responding. Victoria sat alone in the conference room, the stack of signed documents in front of her. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were burning. She'd won. So why did it feel like loss? Her phone buzzed. Daniel's name on the screen. Hey, she answered, her voice rough. Hey, yourself. How did it go? It's done. He signed everything. Victoria, are you okay? She laughed, and it came out closer to a sob. I just destroyed my father. I'm probably going to need therapy for the next decade. But yeah, I think I'm okay. Where are you? Conference room, downtown. Don't move. I'm coming. Daniel, you don't have to. I'm coming. The line went dead. 30 minutes later, Daniel walked through the conference room door. He was still in his work clothes, tool belt around his waist, grease stains on his shirt. He'd come straight from work, hadn't even stopped to change. Hey, he said softly. Hey. He crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. Victoria broke. All the tension, all the fear, all the years of carrying her father's expectations, and her mother's death, and the weight of being Victoria Chase, it all came pouring out. She sobbed against Daniel's chest while he held her. His calloused hands were gentle on her back. His voice was a steady murmur in her ear. It's okay. You're okay. I've got you. I destroyed him, she gasped. My own father. I destroyed him. You freed yourself. What if he's right? What if I regret this? What if I end up alone like my mother? Daniel pulled back, took her face in his hands. Look at me, he said. Victoria, look at me. She met his eyes through her tears. You are not alone. You will never be alone again. I'm here. Lily's here. And we're not going anywhere. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. His voice was fierce. I've broken a lot of things in my life, Victoria. Promises aren't one of them. I told you I always keep my promises. Why? She searched his face. Why do you care about me? I threw a laptop at a wall. I tried to humiliate you in front of your colleagues. I'm broken in ways I don't even understand. So am I. Daniel smiled softly. That's why we fit. Two broken people who know how to fix things. Victoria laughed through her tears. That's the cheesiest thing anyone's ever said to me. Lily wrote it for me, said I needed help with romantic stuff. Victoria laughed harder, genuine now, the heaviness in her chest beginning to lift. She's too smart for her own good. Tell me about it. Daniel wiped her tears with his thumbs. Come on, she's waiting at home, made you a card and everything. A card? For surviving the dad battle, her words. Victoria shook her head in wonder. How did I get so lucky? You threw a laptop at a wall and challenged a maintenance worker to fix your servers. Daniel grinned. Pretty unconventional luck. I offered to kiss you. You offered to humiliate me. I just happened to be worth more than you expected. Victoria leaned up and kissed him. Soft, slow, full of promise. You're worth everything, she whispered against his lips. They walked out of the conference room together, leaving the signed documents behind. The lawyers would file them Monday. The rest of their lives was starting now. Lily was waiting at the apartment door when they arrived. You're back. She launched herself at Victoria. Did you win? Daddy said you were fighting a monster? Did you beat him? Victoria caught her hugging tight. I beat him, baby. The monster's gone. Forever. Forever. Lily pulled back, studying Victoria's face with those two wise green eyes. You've been crying. Happy tears. Mostly. Daddy cries happy tears sometimes too, like when I won second place at the science fair. Lily took Victoria's hand. Come see the card I made you. She led Victoria into the apartment. Daniel followed, closing the door behind them. The card was on the kitchen table. Construction paper and glitter and markers. On the front, 3 stick figures held hands. A tall man, a woman with yellow hair, and a small girl between them. Above them in Lily's careful handwriting, Our Family. Victoria's throat closed up. Do you like it? Lily asked anxiously. I know you're not technically my mom or anything, but you kind of feel like family now. Is that weird? Victoria knelt down to Lily's level. That's not weird at all, she said softly. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever given me. Lily beamed. Really? Really? Does that mean you're staying for real? Victoria looked up at Daniel. He was leaning against the kitchen counter watching them with an expression that made her heart ache. What do you think, Dad? Victoria asked him. Am I staying for real? Daniel pretended to consider. I don't know. Can you eat pizza every Friday without complaining about the calories? I can try. Can you sit through Lily's coding presentations without checking your phone? I would never check my phone during Lily's presentations. Can you learn to fix things instead of throwing them at walls when you're frustrated? Victoria laughed. That might take some work. Then I guess you'd better stick around for a while. Daniel's voice softened. We've got a lot of fixing to do. Might as well do it together. Lily grabbed Victoria's hand and Daniel's hand at the same time. Group hug, she demanded. Family group hug. They came together in the tiny kitchen of the Queen's apartment. 3 people from different worlds, broken in different ways, choosing each other anyway. Victoria buried her face in Daniel's shoulder while Lily squeezed between them. This is what love feels like, she thought. Not weakness, not vulnerability, not the prelude to destruction. This is what love feels like when you choose the right people to give it to. Hey, Victoria. Lily's muffled voice came from somewhere around her ribcage. Yeah, you're squishing me. Victoria laughed and loosened her grip. Sorry, baby. It's okay. Lily grinned up at her. I like being squished by family. That night, after pizza and cartoons and 3 bedtime stories, Lily finally fell asleep. Victoria and Daniel sat on the worn couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. She asked me something last week, Daniel said quietly. What? She asked if you were going to be her new mom. Victoria's heart stuttered. What did you tell her? I told her I didn't know, that some things take time. Daniel paused. But I think she's already decided. Daniel? I'm not asking you for anything. I know this is fast. I know we come from different worlds. I know there are 1,000 reasons this shouldn't work. But I stopped believing in reasons the day Emily walked out. His voice was rough. I believe in people now, in choices, in showing up even when it's hard. Victoria lifted her head to look at him. I've never done this before, she admitted. Relationships, family. I don't know if I'll be good at it. Neither do I. Daniel smiled. But I figure we can learn together. Isn't that what fixing broken things is all about? Trial and error? Patience. Refusing to give up even when nothing makes sense. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. Nothing worth having ever is. He cupped her face in his hand. But Victoria, you're worth it. Whatever complications come, whatever challenges we face, you're worth all of it. She kissed him. Long and slow and full of everything she couldn't put into words. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. Stay with me, she whispered. Not tonight, but always. Stay with me always. Is that a proposal? It's a promise. The first of many. Daniel pulled her closer. Then yes, he said. I'll stay. Always. Outside the window, the Queen's skyline glittered with a million lights. Somewhere across the city, Marcus Chase was packing for exile. Somewhere in Vermont, Sandra Chen was sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. And in a small apartment in Queens, two broken people held each other and began the slow, patient work of building something new. Something that would last. Something worth fighting for. 6 months later, Victoria stood in the bathroom of the Queen's apartment, staring at her reflection. The woman looking back at her was almost unrecognizable. No power suit, no severe bun, no Ice Queen armor, just a white dress. Simple, elegant, nothing like what a Chase wedding would have demanded. You look beautiful. Victoria turned. Lily stood in the doorway wearing a lavender dress with a ribbon in her hair. You think so? I know so. Lily walked over and took Victoria's hand. Daddy's gonna cry when he sees you. Your dad doesn't cry. He cries all the time. He just does it when he thinks I'm not looking. Lily squeezed her hand. He cried when you said yes. I saw him through the crack in my door. Victoria felt her own tears threatening. Come here, you. She pulled Lily into a hug. This child who'd lost her mother, who'd defended her father with the ferocity of a lion, who'd drawn a picture of 3 stick figures and called it family. I love you, Victoria whispered. You know that, right? I know. Lily's voice was muffled against Victoria's dress. I love you too, even when you burn the pancakes. Victoria laughed. I'm getting better. You're really not, but that's okay. Daddy says love means eating burned pancakes and pretending they taste good. Your father is a wise man. He's okay. Lily pulled back, grinning. For a maintenance worker. The ceremony was small. They held it in the park near Daniel's apartment. The same park where Lily had learned to ride a bike. The same park where Daniel had first told Victoria he loved her 3 months ago on a bench overlooking the pond. 20 people attended. A few of Daniel's military friends. Some colleagues from Nexus. Lily's teacher who'd watched the whole story unfold through a child's eyes. No chases. Victoria's father was somewhere in the Caribbean, legally prohibited from coming within 500 miles. She hadn't heard from him since the signing. She didn't miss him. Daniel stood at the front wearing a suit that Lily had helped him pick out. His hands were clasped in front of him. His eyes never left Victoria as she walked toward him. You came, he said when she reached him. Was there any doubt? I've learned not to take anything for granted. The officiant was a friend of Daniel's from the army. a chaplain who'd served with him in Afghanistan. "We're gathered here," he began, "to witness something rare. Two people who found each other against all odds, who chose each other when every circumstance said they shouldn't." Victoria looked at Daniel. He was already looking at her. "In my experience," the chaplain continued, "love isn't about compatibility or convenience. It's about choice. Choosing someone every single day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Lily stood between them, holding both their hands. "Daniel, do you have something you'd like to say?" Daniel cleared his throat. His eyes were wet. "Victoria, 6 months ago you challenged me to fix a server. You offered to kiss me if I succeeded. You thought you were humiliating me." Soft laughter rippled through the small crowd. "Instead, you changed my life. You showed me that walls can come down, that broken people can heal, that love isn't weakness, it's the only strength that matters." He squeezed her hand. "I've fixed a lot of broken things in my life, but you fixed me, and I will spend every day of the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that gift." Victoria was crying now. She didn't care. "Victoria, your turn." She took a breath, looked at the man who'd walked away from her kiss, who'd chosen pizza with his daughter over billions, who'd taught her what love actually meant. "Daniel, I spent 35 years building walls, protecting myself, believing that love was weakness and vulnerability was death. I inherited that belief from my mother. I reinforced it with my father. I thought I was strong because I needed no one." She wiped her eyes with her free hand. "Then you came along, a maintenance worker in a faded uniform who told me to my face that he didn't want my kiss, who looked at me like I was a person instead of a position, who showed me that real strength isn't about control, it's about connection." She looked down at Lily. "And you, this incredible, brilliant, fierce little girl who drew a picture of 3 stick figures and wrote 'Our Family' on top. You taught me that love isn't something you inherit or earn. It's something you choose every day, even when it's scary." Victoria looked back at Daniel. "I choose you, both of you, today and tomorrow and every day after. Not because I have to, because I finally understand what my mother got wrong. Love isn't weakness. Loving the wrong person is weakness. Loving the right people, that's everything." The chaplain smiled. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." He looked at Lily. "And family." Daniel kissed Victoria while Lily cheered and the small crowd applauded. When they broke apart, Lily threw her arms around both of them. "Does this mean I can call you Mom now?" Victoria knelt down still in her wedding dress, the grass staining the white fabric. "You can call me whatever you want, baby. I want to call you Mom." Lily's voice was small, vulnerable. "Is that okay?" "That's more than okay." Victoria hugged her tight. "That's everything." The reception was pizza. They'd reserved the back room at Maria's Pizzeria, the same restaurant where they'd had their first Friday night dinner, the same table where Lily had asked if Victoria was going away. The owner, Maria herself, had cried when they'd explained what they were celebrating. "This is how love should be," she'd said, dabbing her eyes with her apron. "Simple, real, built on pizza instead of pretension." Now 3 hours into the celebration, Victoria sat in a booth watching Daniel dance with Lily. Some old Motown song was playing on the jukebox. Lily stood on Daniel's feet while he moved them in slow circles. "She's a beautiful girl." Victoria turned. A man she didn't recognize was standing beside the table. Older, weathered, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "No." The man sat down across from her. "But I know you. You're the woman who saved my best friend." "Your best friend?" "Daniel. We served together. I'm Mike. He might have mentioned me." Victoria remembered. Uncle Mike. The one Daniel had told about giving up government jobs to stay with Lily. "He talked about you," Said you were the one who convinced him to resign his commission. Mike shook his head. I didn't convince him of anything. I just told him what I saw. He nodded toward Daniel and Lily on the dance floor. That little girl needed him more than the army did. And Danny, he was never going to be whole if he walked away from her. He gave up everything. He gained everything that mattered. Mike turned to look at Victoria. Just like you did. I gave up a father who didn't love me. That's not the same. Isn't it? Mike's eyes were kind. You gave up certainty, security, the life you knew. You jumped without a net. He smiled. Danny did the same thing 4 years ago. Looks like you two were made for each other. Victoria watched Daniel lift Lily and spin her around. The little girl shrieked with laughter. Can I ask you something? She said. Shoot. When Emily left, how did Daniel handle it? Mike was quiet for a moment. He didn't. Not at first. He was destroyed. I've seen men come back from combat with fewer scars than Danny had after that woman walked out. Mike shook his head. But then Lily smiled at him, called him Dada for the first time, and I watched him rebuild himself piece by piece around that child. He's an incredible father. He's an incredible man, but he was lonely, Victoria, so damn lonely. He'd never admit it, but I could see it. Every time I visited, there was this emptiness. Even with Lily, even with his work, there was something missing. What was missing? Someone to fix him the way he fixes everything else. Mike met her eyes. That's you. I can see it in how he looks at you. The emptiness is gone. Victoria felt tears threatening again. I don't know if I'm enough. You're more than enough. Mike reached across the table and squeezed her hand. And he knows it. That's why he married you. Danny doesn't make promises he can't keep. The song ended. Daniel walked over to the table, Lily still in his arms. Mike, you're hogging my wife. Just giving her the hurt him and I'll find you speech. Very comforting. Daniel set Lily down. Go get some more pizza, baby girl. Leave the adults to their threatening. Lily ran off toward the food table. Daniel slid into the booth beside Victoria. His arm went around her shoulders automatically. Naturally. Like they'd been doing this for years. Having fun? He asked. The best day of my life. Better than when you threw that laptop. Victoria laughed. Significantly better. Better than when you found out you controlled the company. 1,000 times better. Better than when you called your father's bluff and watched him sign everything away. Victoria turned to look at her husband. Her husband. The word still felt foreign. Wonderful. Nothing compares to this, she said softly. Nothing in my entire life compares to this. Daniel kissed her forehead. Get used to it, Mrs. Reed. This is just the beginning. 1 year later. Victoria stood in a different office now, smaller than her old corner suite at Nexus, warmer, filled with children's drawings and family photos. The sign on the door read, Chase Reed Foundation. Mrs. Reed. Your 2 o'clock is here. Victoria looked up from her desk. Her assistant, a young woman named Jessica, who'd once been homeless and was now working on her MBA, stood in the doorway. Send them in. A woman entered, mid-30s, nervous, clutching a folder like a lifeline. Ms. Chen, please sit down. Sandra Chen, the whistleblower who'd helped Victoria bring down her father, sat across from her. I wasn't sure you'd want to see me, Sandra said. After everything I owe you my life, my family, everything that matters. Victoria smiled. What can I do for you? I want to help. The foundation, what you're building here. I want to be part of it. The Chase Reed Foundation. Victoria's answer to her father's empire of exploitation. A nonprofit dedicated to helping whistleblowers, supporting single parents, and providing technology education to underserved communities. Daniel had helped her build it. Of course he had. He helped her build everything now. "We'd be honored to have you," Victoria said. "When can you start?" Sandra's eyes filled with tears. "Really? Just like that?" "Sandra, you risked everything to do the right thing. That's exactly the kind of person we need." Victoria stood and extended her hand. "Welcome to the family." That evening, Victoria drove home to Queens. She could afford to live anywhere now. The penthouse was still hers. Multiple properties around the world waited empty. But home was a 3-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of a walk-up building with a broken elevator that Daniel kept fixing. Home was pizza on Fridays, and coding projects on weekends, and burned pancakes on Sunday mornings. Home was Daniel and Lily. She let herself in to find chaos. "No, Lily, that wire goes there." "I know where the wire goes. Dad, I'm not a baby." "I didn't say you were a baby. I said the connection is reversed." "It's not reversed. Look at the schematic." Victoria leaned against the doorframe, watching her husband and daughter argue over something electronic on the kitchen table. "What are you two building?" They looked up. Both of them had the same stubborn expression. It would have been funny if it weren't so familiar. "BuddyBot 3.0, Lily announced, "for the national competition." "She wants to add facial recognition," Daniel added. "I'm explaining why that's a privacy nightmare." "It's not a privacy nightmare if users consent." "Users are kids, they can't legally consent." "Then their parents consent." Okay. Victoria held up her hands. "Dinner first, debate later." Lily groaned. "But we're almost done." "Dinner, then you can finish." Victoria walked over and kissed Daniel's cheek. "Hi, husband." "Hi, wife." He caught her hand. "How was your day?" "Good. We hired Sandra Chen." "The whistleblower." "That's fantastic." She cried. I almost cried. It was very emotional. "Everything makes you cry now," Lily observed. "You cried at my school play. You cried when I got my report card. You cried when the pizza place added your favorite toppings to the menu." "I'm making up for lost time." Victoria ruffled Lily's hair. "I spent 35 years not crying. I have a lot of tears to catch up on." Dinner was takeout from the Thai place around the corner. They ate at the kitchen table, BuddyBot components pushed aside, talking about school and work and the foundation, and whether Daniel should finally get a new truck. "The old one runs fine," Daniel insisted. "It broke down twice last month," Victoria countered. "Minor issues, easily fixed." "Dad," Lily said seriously, "at some point you have to stop fixing things and just get new things." "Never. That's quitter talk." "Mom, tell him." "Mom." Even after a year, the word still made Victoria's heart squeeze. "I think," Victoria said carefully, "that some things are worth fixing forever, and some things are ready to be retired with honor." The truck is not ready to be retired. The truck is literally held together with duct tape. High-quality duct tape. Lily threw her hands up. "You two are impossible." Later, after Lily had gone to bed and the apartment was quiet, Victoria and Daniel sat on the couch. Her head was on his shoulder. His arm was around her, the same position they'd been in the night she'd first told him about the foundation idea, the same position they always ended up in. "Happy?" Daniel asked quietly. "Terrified." He looked down at her. "Terrified. That I'll wake up, that this is a dream, that I'll open my eyes and be back in my penthouse alone, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. "You're not dreaming." "How do you know?" "Because in dreams things are perfect." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "This is messy and complicated, and sometimes we fight about trucks. That's how you know it's real." Victoria laughed softly. "I love you," she said. "I don't say it enough." "You say it every day." "It's still not enough." Daniel shifted so he could look at her directly. "Do you remember what you said to me in the parking garage, the day we met?" I offered to kiss you if you fixed the servers. Before that, when I asked what you needed. Victoria thought back. It felt like a lifetime ago. I said I needed something real. You did. Daniel touched her face. And I've spent every day since trying to give you that. Something real, something true, something that lasts. You have, Victoria whispered. You've given me everything. Not everything. Daniel smiled. We still have the rest of our lives. Plenty more to give. Plenty more to fix. That's what we do, isn't it? Fix broken things. Make them work again. Make them better than before. Victoria thought about her mother, about the note that had haunted her for 18 years. Love is weakness. She understood now what her mother had meant. Love was weakness when you loved someone who diminished you, someone who controlled you, someone who made you smaller. But love with the right person, love that lifted you up, that saw you clearly, that chose you every single day, that love was the strongest force in the universe. My mother was wrong, Victoria said quietly. About what? About everything. She looked at Daniel. She said love was weakness, but she just loved the wrong person. If she'd found someone like you. She didn't have to find someone like me. Daniel's voice was gentle. She just had to find herself first, know her own worth, demand to be treated with dignity. He paused. That's what you did, Victoria. You didn't just find love. You became someone capable of receiving it. Victoria felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I was so broken, she whispered. We were both broken. We still are in some ways. But broken doesn't mean beyond repair. Broken just means the work isn't finished yet. Victoria kissed him then, deep and slow and full of everything she felt. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. Thank you, she said. For what? For walking away from my kiss. For showing me that dignity mattered more than power. For teaching me that love wasn't weakness. She smiled through her tears. For fixing me. Daniel held her close. You fixed yourself, Victoria. I just handed you the tools. 5 years later. The auditorium was packed. Victoria sat in the front row, Daniel beside her watching the stage. Her hand was in his, their fingers intertwined. And the winner of this year's National Youth Innovation Award, the announcer said, for her groundbreaking work in accessibility technology for neurodivergent students, Lily Reed. The crowd erupted. Victoria and Daniel jumped to their feet. On stage, a 13-year-old girl walked to the podium. She was poised and confident, the gap-toothed smile replaced by braces, the wild hair tamed into braids. But her eyes were the same. Green and fierce and full of fire. Thank you, Lily said into the microphone. I'd like to thank my dad who taught me that broken things can always be fixed. My mom who taught me that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. And Buddy bought versions 1 through 7 for crashing repeatedly and teaching me that failure is just practice for success. The audience laughed. When I was 8, Lily continued, I drew a picture of 3 stick figures. I wrote our family on top. Back then it was a wish. Something I hoped might come true. She looked directly at Victoria and Daniel. Today it's a fact. The best fact of my life. Victoria was crying. She didn't care. Daniel was crying too. For once, he didn't try to hide it. This award isn't really mine, Lily concluded. It belongs to everyone who ever felt broken and found someone willing to help them heal. We're all fixable. We just need the right people to hand us the tools. The applause was thunderous. Victoria watched her daughter raise the trophy overhead. Watched Daniel wipe his eyes with his sleeve. Watched the life she'd built, the family she'd chosen, the love she'd fought for. And she understood finally completely what had been true all along. Love wasn't weakness. Love was the only strength that mattered. Everything else was just waiting to be fixed.